That an era of decadence had set in, the best Athenians of the 4th century were well aware. Demosthenes was continually harping upon the theme. His countrymen, he complains, would not drill. They preferred to pay hirelings to fight for them. They thought of themselves first, and of the state second. Whereas their fathers had built for the glory of Athens, they built for their personal comfort or pride, and compared with the humble homes of the great men of the past, their private houses were palaces of pretentious luxury. Public duties were neglected, and to obtain even a quorum at the assembly it had proved necessary to introduce a payment for attendance. Public men lacked the self-effacing dignity of their predecessors. Self-advertisement was all too common. The bad manners of the demagogues were proverbial, ever since Cleon had set the fashion with his vulgar ways, slapping his thigh like a low tapster, keeping the assembly waiting at his will, and then dismissing it because he was busy. Even Demosthenes and his political opponents bandy the crudest of personal jibes. There were still, of course, plenty of staunch and steady-going patriots, in this as in any other age, and many of them reacted against its demoralizing tendencies by modeling their lives on the severer ideal of Sparta. But for all that, the good old days were gone by, and men knew it. The very music of the time, always a telling symptom, shocked the conservative ears of Aristophanes, and he bitterly complains of the newfangled tunes with their trills and tremolos and discords, the ragtime of antiquity. The causes of the decline were, in part, of course, economic. Perhaps one indirect result, too, of the Peloponnesian War was the rise of new centers of manufacture, such as Syracuse, Tarentum, and various towns in Asia Minor, and consequent decline of the old Greek industries of the past. So more and more men cut adrift from their home country and sought occupation where it might best be found. Traveling teachers and itinerant doctors are now numerous, and above all, as we shall see, soldiers of fortune become a feature of the age. Arcadians and Achaeans march with Cyrus into Persia, and Athens hires mercenaries to fight against Philip. In other words, the city-state, with her exclusive claims and her exclusive privileges, no longer suffices to the individual's need. She is no longer all in all to her citizens. Each must shift for himself. But in another and a deeper sense, the city-state is no longer all-sufficient, and the second cause of the decline is psychological. During the final quarter of the foregoing century, the sophists' teaching had begun to take deep root. Traces of its influence we have already seen in the words and policies of Athens' leading men. Naked appeal to self-interest is the invariable argument which Thucydides puts into the mouths of Cleon, Alcibiades, and the rest. It is tacitly assumed that no more exalted motive could conceivably influence a state. But what, then, it might be asked, of its individual members? Such doctrines were scarcely calculated to make good citizens, and self-interest might well prove a double-edged weapon. Young men who had been taught, as Socrates' pupils were, to call everything in question and accept no tradition or convention at mere second-hand, were likely to end in accepting none at all. And though Socrates himself maintained in its highest sense an unswerving loyalty to the state, his disciples did not. Once encouraged to think for themselves, they came soon to rate their own judgment above the accepted standards of morality and religion, and it was the same, we may be sure, with the disciples of less sterling teachers. The younger generation made light of civic obligations. They derided esprit de corps. They became, in a word, thoroughgoing individualists. So the old bonds which had held the community together began to part. And in this way, too, the state ceased to be the all-sufficient interest in men's lives.
to keep listening to this audiobook. I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.